You're listening to the Lone Star Gridiron Sports Network.
Terry Bennett, Grant Goodwin, sideline to sideline. I couldn't really think of what to say on the intro, so there it was. Terry Bennett, Grant Goodwin, sideline to sideline, right here on LoneStarGridiron.com. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? There, I just thought of that. Is that better? Why are you staring at me? Really? We're 48 seconds in and we're already starting this?
Not laying out on you. I just waiting for something to say.
Okay, we gotta kind of explain the day, don't we?
It's been a long day. Dude.
It's been a long, good day. Basically, Grant
Brisket went on.
Yeah,
we're not in studio tonight.
Yeah, we're not.
We're doing a remote.
Yeah, we're doing a remote. They paid well.
We had a brisket on the smoker, drinking energy drinks all day.
So basically, what happened was Grant and I were talking about our schedule. The listeners that have listened to us know we do the off season, and we like to have traditional certain shows that we do. But our schedule just this month was kind of working out where we would have to miss some days, and we're fine with missing weeks when we're in the off season. That's why we only literally did one show in the off season. But when we get to the off season, we want to treat it like the real season. So we've always been honest to the listeners, so I'm going to be honest now. We're basically recording a few shows today so that they can go up in a timely manner over the next few weeks. Because you're going to Port Aransas next weekend. It's just easier to do this. Well, if you've listened to the show long enough, you know what that means. That's called Grant and Terry Guy Day, usually Guy Night. So Grant decided at first it was going to be normal. Hey, let's come over. You want to record during the week, at the studio? And you were like, well, why don't we just do a brisket Saturday? And I was like, well, why don't we just do 3 shows Saturday? And now at 7:44 at night on Saturday, I'm going, we might make 2 shows. Might have to record one tomorrow because this might not be the studio, but this is where I'm sleeping tonight.
Right in the bathtub.
Probably. Anyway, that is Grant Goodwin. I'm Terry Bennett. We want to thank you for joining us sideline to sideline right here at LoneStarGridiron.com. We like to talk football and other stuff, and we will talk about other things. I'll go ahead and say this.
Did you tell them what show we're doing, though?
No, I'm about to. That's what I'm about to say.
Oh, okay.
I was walking into. I'll say this. We're doing our shows today, and we're doing them. Again, it's gonna be funny. You're gonna basically hear how we are instead of in the moment of one show. You're about to hear for the next 3 weeks how we started here, how we sound now, and then week 3 we've become like a soap opera. You're going to get a completely different cast because we're going to sound completely different. But what we're doing right now, we're recording possibly out of order. So the one we're doing right now is our annual toughest regions of Class 4A and Class 3A, where we're going to break down, it's really just that, the toughest regions. We created our...
With why we think why.
Yeah, I was about to say, we created our rules.
We support our work
in
our algebra.
We cite our...
I know you know the answer. Tell me how you got there.
Oh, that was always my issue.
Because I got there because I know, sir.
That was always my issue with algebra, dude. I struggled with algebra. And
I did too. My main issue was I just sucked at symbols.
No, I did too.
I would algebra. I'd rather guide my father into my mother than go to algebra. I could not go to that class. But
okay, you remember when I said I was looking for certain sound bites for our new Awesome Open?
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
What?
You just gave me the first one.
I don't understand.
I'd rather guide my mother
into mother into my father? Whoa.
A little pegging going on.
Extreme pegging.
But anyway, my problem...
I'd rather guide my 12-inch mama into my...
oh, God, I'm so
father that's the size of a grape.
I think this is the earliest. I've ever had to say. I'm sorry,
chocolate
Chris.
starfish. Sorry.
No, but algebra symbols were the issue with me, but it was also if it's
and numbers too were with me.
See,
too.
I was fine with all the basics, but when I looked at 4 plus x equals 7.
You couldn't put that 3 in.
I can put 3 in there. Nope, gotta show how you got there. Okay, I grew up. Somebody told me that 4 versus 3 equals 7. If you give me 4 cans, add 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what y'all taught me until 8th grade, and then you all of a sudden said, nope, changing their minds.
How about all the Common Core stuff? I couldn't even really do that now, man.
Dude.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
I
can't even do basic math.
That's
now.
algebra on steroids, and I get the idea. It's a convoluted.
It's a critical thinking.
Exactly,
thing.
and that's something that I think. And I know again, this is going to be a show that there's rails. The rails are in the studio. We're not in the studio.
You're right on track. I don't know what you're talking about.
But that's one of those things that with standardized testing, a lot of people say, well, we lose critical thinking. So I get the idea of let's teach critical thinking. I just don't think that that's the best way because, again, I think there are too many people that are like me that'll go, I know what 55 plus 50 is. I don't have to show you a 17-layer reason of why. I'm going to show you basically what I was taught. So I get the reason, but yeah, that's terrible. We're not using Common Core. Our system's actually pretty basic. What we basically do is
we just do addition. That's all we do on sideline, right? Addition.
I just use the.
We do our tier ones. A tier 1 is a plus. It's like counting cards at the casino. And I'm sorry if there's any young players out there that listen. We know there are a few. We don't go to casinos and we don't count cards. But if there's no players listening, high school students,
one of our greatest.
We do kind of count cards sometimes at casinos.
I'll count cards if I'm at a casino. I know you can't say.
Okay, I can't count cards. I know you can.
I can in a.
We've racked up at some casinos though.
I have a weird relationship with numbers. Like I said, I
do too. They hate me, and I don't like them.
Well, I'm great in math.
I'm always wrong.
I'm great in math. I'm great in geometry. Geometry was easy because I had a teacher that was a coach that was also a good. Well, he's now the head coach at Gilmer, and he taught geometry in the way of sports. So a guy's 40 yards down, you're trying to throw it, you do this, all that. That was fun. Mm-hmm. Algebra I hate, and money, like adding money and stuff. I'm terrible at that. Counting cards for some reason, I'm really good at that. It's illegal-ish. I don't know how that can be illegal. It's
not really illegal. They just don't like it.
Oh, they'll like break your hands. Well, I'm sorry, they don't anymore.
Still,
but I mean, you can be banned just simply because they think you're counting cards.
Right.
So anyway,
my geometry's all right, guys. Here's a circle jerk.
Okay, so 8 minutes in. Sorry, Chris.
Okay.
Kidding. I don't care. But no, it's our system. What I like about our system is we kind of just made it up.
There is no system.
We do because we basically went. Okay, we look at who are.
It's 4 hours of show research that is just reading up on what games we didn't see and talking about the game we did see.
Yeah.
And that's our formula.
Well, no, we actually do. Okay, here's
algebra.
Here's how we do
what we do.
Well, one thing I did learn is everything that has a formula is a mathematical equation. What we basically do, if you're new to the show or if you just don't remember, we look at every region by division, 4A Division 1, 4A Division 2. They're separate. They're on the same show. They're in the same thing, but they're separate as far as that. And we go, okay, how many are ranked in the top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20, and then
by our rankings and tiers.
Yeah, by ours.
Our
what we view, and our tiers are completely different than rankings. Mm-hmm. That's what we've meant. That's what
we've always said. We don't do rankings, and all of a sudden we're talking about we do rankings. We do tiers.
That's what we have not scheduled in.
Our tiers.
Well, you know what? We'll work that into our big preseason.
Maybe tiers. No. Let's do tiers next.
No. I know this should be like, hey, let's talk about. Y'all should talk about this off air, but who cares? I'd rather we do that inside our big preseason prediction show. so I can have more time.
That's
to
like
really...
a 6-hour show, though. You know that, right?
And how long are you thinking tonight's going to be?
We got a brisket to cut.
Oh, we're gonna show pictures of the brisket on Sideline to Sideline.
And this little box slider I've got, the best
My Powerade
Bach you can get in Texas. Toadie's box slider by the Martin House. Good stuff. All right. So, are we going to take a break and then come back and talk about the toughest regions in
First,
Class
I want to remind everybody that
Division 1 and Division 2?
Yes, we will. I will do the whole Twitter, Facebook thing when we come back because we got to talk about the Twitter thing too. Again, all season show, folks. We're going to randomly talk about stuff, and it probably doesn't hurt that we're overhydrated at the moment.
And it doesn't get any better than this.
No, it does not.
Until the football season, and then it gets a lot better, though, right? Don't you think?
There'll be a lot of regret tomorrow, then giggles on Monday, and then right back to it the next time.
I feel bad for your Uber driver.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to jump into Toughest Regions Class 4A, Division 1 and Division 2, right here on Sideline to Sideline on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Imagine a game where you can pit the greatest Texas high school football teams of all time against each other. Before now, if you wanted to see the Permian Panthers of Friday Night Lights fame play Johnny Manziel's 2010 Kerrville squad, you were stuck with only your imagination. Not anymore. This new game allows you to play those dream matchups. 1983 Dangerfield, only allowed 8 points all season. 2015 Katy, 10 shutouts en route to their 4th straight championship appearance. 2008 Allen, their first of 5 championships in the state's largest classification, and so many more. Friday Night Legends is that game. What are you waiting for? Get in the game. Friday Night Legends.
Head over to FridayNightLegends.com while you can still take advantage of the Kickstarter pricing. That's FridayNightLegends.com.
This show is brought to you by the book, All I Need to Know I Learned from My Texas High School Football Coach. A handbook of wisdom for parents, young people, and yes, even coaches. Head over to www.learnedfromcoach.com and order your copy to support sharing the stories of these great coaches and leaders. That's learnedfromcoach.com. Hey guys, put down the energy drinks. It's time to work.
A couple of pretty flies. That's what I brought to you. I saw you through.
Terry Bennett, Greg Goodwin here, Sideline to Sideline. The music you've played so far. By the way, we're going to have a new open when we do the big extravaganza preseason prediction show. So if you care about that, be looking out for that. But so what we're doing right now is we've retired the old open, and so we're just kind of playing stuff. The 2 songs.
I'm glad the old open's retired.
Why? That was a really good
open.
open.
Man. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know, indicative of my mistakes earlier, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. You thought the new open's going to change that. Gotcha, buddy.
Oh,
gotcha.
It's not, huh? I thought it was going to be my best broadcasting moment.
It is. I'm sorry. It's your best broadcasting moments. I'm not. I don't want to give it away. We have a theme to. We always have. I've always had a theme to my opens. We have a theme to the open. It's easy once it starts. But anyway, I was about to say though. My point is the music that you've played the first for these 2 intros makes me want to watch Friday Night Lights, the series, the TV series. It really does. I just that's what I think of, especially the first one. It just sounds like, and it might have played on one of those. I don't know when the song came out, but that just sounds like one of the songs that would play to begin a scene in Friday Night Lights type of thing. They always had those really good like little guitar riffs to start a song. I don't even know how to explain it, but you've watched the show, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. And the movie did it too, but I think the show went even better because when you have a show, you have so many more opportunities to lay down music tracks. And that was one of the things that I always liked about Friday Night Lights is it puts you in the mood to watch it with the music, and that's really important. So anyways, that's what those two songs have done for me. And everybody else is listening is going, that's funny because what you just said tuned me out. Click.
Well, let's hear about Toughest Regions.
Let's hear about Toughest Regions. And by the way, we want to remind everybody you can follow us on Twitter at Grant and Terry. You can like us on Facebook, Sideline to Sideline. You can give us an email, grantandterry@lonestarretiring.com. Before we go, and I know I keep saying before, but we had a Twitter tragedy. We lost like a crap ton of users, followers. We honestly lost like half almost.
Wow.
Basically what happened was...
We got 10 now? 10 followers.
Oh, dude, we'd gotten up to 15, buddy.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
No, but basically what has happened is Twitter went and started eliminating accounts that they feel are locked. Meaning either the people just don't tweet anymore, don't get on it, or it's not the original person. Meaning basically a person that's kind of known will be like, this is me, but somebody else is tweeting for them, or a company that was started out as a person, but then all they do is try to sell you crap through, on Twitter.
Right.
It's funny because I was like, well, I shouldn't feel too bad because people like former President Obama lost like 2.5 million users instantly. Problem is he still has 130 something million.
Oh.
We were at we were almost at 5,000. We'd been hovering right at 5,000. We're now at 2,900. Still good. I mean, that's still great, but it sucks. So what I'm basically asking is, if you don't follow us on Twitter, and if you have Twitter, follow us, please. No,
pretty please.
Yeah, I say no, really, please, please. But no. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to talk.
Got to have you now.
We're going to talk now our toughest regions. We're going to start with 4A Division 1. Mm-hmm. Okay. I really like where 4A and 3A are this year, at least how I feel it's going to be, because I don't feel like it's like last year where there's the few that you kind of know they're going to at least get to a certain point. Mm-hmm. I do think this is a year where in both conferences and both divisions, yeah, there's some giants, but I also think there's a lot of uncertainty in every region and in districts. I like that. Yeah. That's when I enjoy doing the show the most. That's when I enjoy following football the most, or any sport. I mean, I love the traditional teams as much as anybody, but it's fun to see like the Pleasant Groves, those types of teams that come out of nowhere.
Hey, I got to give us props. We called Pleasant Grove last year. We called it from our first show.
But hey, let's all remember Terry picked Van for state. No, let's not remember that.
Negates your
let's
pick.
not remember that he was one of the ones that said, watch out for the Hawks. This team is really freaking good and really probably will go very deep if not win state. No, let's remember that he got on the Van. But no, you're right. And that's the fun thing about these predictions is, I always say it, the fans remember the wrongs, we remember the rights.
Right.
So let's go ahead and jump into it. You just want to go region
let's
1
go,
through?
Yeah, we're going the toughest regions in Class 4A Division 1
mm-hmm.
and then 4A Division 2 right
in
after
this segment,
this,
yeah.
And then we'll take a break
all
and then go on. So let's go from the least toughest region in Class 4A Division 1. Let's start out at number 4 and go all the way to number 1 before we get to 4A
great.
Division 2. All right, so to me, and tell me if you agree or not, the fourth toughest region, the least toughest region right now in Class 4A Division 1 is Region 1 to me. Look, you basically have Decatur and Wichita Falls Hirschi, and maybe Dumas, who dropped down.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dumas might be I think they might be a formidable opponent in Region 1, but to me, Region 1 in Class 4A Division 1 just boils down to not only just two teams, two players. You got DeMarca Foster from Wichita Falls Hirschi, the running back that ran for, 3,275 yards.
Yeah.
And then you got a quarterback at Decatur in Wilson Hicks. The thing is, they're both in District 4. So you got the two toughest teams. Two teams in Decatur and Wichita Falls Hirschi that could make it to the state finals if everything breaks right. They got a tough region ahead of them in Region 2. But again,
Region 1.
Well,
oh, you mean the opponent?
Yeah,
Sorry, you're
their
right.
opponents.
Sorry.
But I do think Region 1 breaks down to just basically it comes down to two players in DeMarco Foster and Wilson Hicks at Decatur.
Well, Region 1, and again, I understand, the whole pride of where you're from, your region, that type of stuff. I jokingly call it the SEC mentality. I get that when people feel like you're saying that your region or your district is not strong. But Region 1, I think, is always now going to be kind of like in this flux because just simply the population. I mean, it's simply that's really all it is. It's nothing like, oh, we think those teams are bad. It's just we're looking at pure numbers. Mm-hmm. And when you look at pure numbers, I mean, and especially in 4A Division 1, this might be one of the weakest regions of all.
Could be.
I mean, really, it really could.
I mean, if you
in all classes,
Andrews could add a 4th team. I mean, right now, I think the 3 strong teams in Region 1 is Hirschi, Decatur, and then maybe Dumas, and then you could maybe throw in Andrews. But outside of that, I don't think there's any real strong.
Because you lost powers like Wylie, Abilene Wylie. I mean, that was a team that basically anchored Region 1. When there would be years where Region 1 was down like this, but as we always, again, the running joke, and it's not a joke, it became more of like a running meme, we always trust in Sandifer, and he always, even the years when the teams weren't the strongest, it seemed like they were always making it to the region, or at least the region finals, and if they made it to the semifinals, even if they lost, they played well enough that you didn't just think, oh, well, they only got through their region because the region's so bad. But this year in 4A Division 1, I mean, even the teams you're talking about, I sit there and I go,
I think Hirschi is going to make some noise, and I think Decatur could make some noise.
Oh, I think,
but their supporting cast in Dumas and say Andrews is not that compelling
Dumas,
right now.
I think Dumas for me, and again,
a lot of Dumas is just from moving down.
Well, I was about to say that. Don't jump the gun, folks. Dumas is what I call the Henderson model. A team that was in a higher class.
Pretty dang good model.
Yeah, exactly. A team that was in a higher class that would have these 1 or 2 years every 6 or 7 years where they did really good, but then they would be just an average team. And then when they dropped down, nobody thought, oh, hey, that's a team that's depth all of a sudden is now going to not be as much of an issue and things like that. They went from being a team that in their district probably had the least depth to in a lot of districts having the most depth, and we saw what that has done. And I'm not saying Dumas will do that, but there's always that one team on realignment drops that become these instant state powers for a window.
But is it going to be the Demons?
I don't know. I really don't
think so.
But I mean, but honestly, let's say we probably did do this, but let's say we're going back to when Henderson first dropped. We could literally be saying that, and like I said, I'm not even sure.
I was a little bit more convinced that.
Well, because Henderson, it was always because Henderson, you never felt when they were bad that they were out athleted.
Right.
They were out footballed. They were out depth.
Out depth.
Now football, like it goes to coaching to an extent, but just they had a lot of athletes. They didn't have a lot of football players.
Yeah.
So, and I can't say Dumas has the same reputation. I'm just saying Dumas fits that one of those teams that it's not like they spent the last 4 years 0-40 and hadn't won a game in 4 years. They're a solid team. Drop them down into a district that's not competitive at all.
They'll win that district. I mean, I don't know. I think Canyon might have something to say about it, maybe, and maybe Hereford and Pampa, the Harvesters. But District 3 should be Dumas's district.
Yeah.
But in the end, I mean, Region 4, because we only have 3 to 4 teams that we really think are Tier 2 in maybe one Tier 2 team that is pushing close to Tier 1 in Wichita Falls, Hirschi. I just think that's why they're the 4th toughest district or region in Class 4A Division 2, Division 1. All right, the 3rd toughest region, the number 3 region is Region 4. And the reason I say Region 4, and do you agree that they're the 3rd
Yeah.
toughest.
I'm not going to tell you. I already agree with everything.
Okay.
I
think you got Liberty Hill, who's going to rule the roost in Region 3.
Yes.
I think you got Kyle Harrison at running back, 2,700 yards rushing last year, basically. Rules the roost. I don't think anybody's going to really be able to slow down Kyle Harrison and that slot T for Liberty Hill.
It's always crazy when a slot T team has a focal back, isn't it, though?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's going to still be 4 other
They
guys that
actually
get.
got 2 others.
Well, I was about to say,
Yeah.
there's going to be, it's the Allen Wilson, John Tyler days. There's going to still be 4 other kids that almost get 600 yards.
Right, exactly.
It's just, that method of what they do, it's.
This is going to be
offensive
one of the
snaps.
best Liberty Hill teams in the last 8 years.
I think this is one of the best Liberty Hill teams, if not the best Liberty Hill team since the state championship runs.
I agree.
I really do.
I agree.
I
I think this is the best Liberty Hill team, or the Liberty Hill team that has a chance to take the Panthers back to what they were doing before, with state championships and all that. All right. I think another reason Region 4 is the third best. Look, you got Canyon Lake, Fisher Canyon Lake, or Como Canyon Lake, whatever you want to call them. I think a lot of UIL calls them Como Canyon Lake.
Can I call them Schlitterbahn Canyon Lake?
You can. Well, Schlitterbahn's kind of.
They
got sued.
Schlitterbahns kind of like
the owners got arrested.
They've kind of become
because some kid lost his head in Kansas.
Well, there was
just like JFK lost his head in Dallas.
Yeah. Again, let's see here.
Okay, that kid was young. I should say.
No,
but Canyon Lake, dude. Yeah, I mean they should be good. They were really good last year. I don't know if they're enough to push Liberty Hill, but they're enough to solidify Region 4. But when you add Sealy and El Campo in there, I think that's what really pumps up Region 4 above Region 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the depth overall, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because like you were talking
Bay
about,
City should be pretty good. Beeville Jones, Gonzales should be pretty good. So that's Region 3's not heads and shoulders above Region 1, but they're still well above Region 1.
Again, it just comes down to, in my opinion, like you said, you look at these district battles, and at least in 2 of the districts, you see teams that could go deep.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Region 1, you see 2 districts that go kind of deep, but that's because the other 2 districts are just not good. In Region 4, the districts that we haven't even talked about are still solid districts.
Right.
They still will be competitive. So yeah, like I said, I totally agree with that. Region 4 comes in at second, the second toughest region in division, or third toughest division in.
Third
toughest region in Class 4A Division 1.
Take a deep breath. Go with the flow.
Get some power
Look
rating.
at the run sheet.
Get some power
It
rating.
tells you. All right. So the second toughest region, second out of 4 in Class 4A Division 1 is Region 3. Region 3 because, look, Carthage. I know they don't have a lot coming back, and they got to return a dynamic running back.
Haven't they proved at this point they'd reload instead of rebuild?
What's funny, though, is they always reload when they need a quarterback. They lost a running back, and they still got their quarterback in Gunner Capps.
Yeah.
But they still have some guys on both sides of the line, and let's face it, Scott Surratt knows how to put players in the right position. So
I honestly think the only problem that they might have into being a team that goes deep is some of the what's happened in the offseason. I think that weighs heavier than what people realize.
Maybe, but I don't think it'll do anything. I still think they're a favorite.
No, I do too. No, I'm saying if I'm saying that when we do these predictions, when you can't only just pick what you think a team will do right.
Right.
You have to look at who their opponents might be or will be, and kind of pick why they won't be able to go as far. And
you have them as a heavy favorite.
I have them as a heavy favorite. Like I said, I think they've proven now. I mean, they had 1 year, 2014. They went 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a down year. they still went and got beat in the area by 7 points to a really good 2014 El Campo team.
Yeah.
That's where Carthage is right now. I mean, I'm sitting here just I'm reading.
It would be tough not to see this matchup in what would that be, the semifinals? Either Carthage versus Liberty-Eylau or Midlothian Heritage versus Liberty-Eylau. To me, I just would be upset not to see that, one of three scenarios there.
Well, let's now bring up what you talked
scenarios.
about. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I'm saying you talked about Carthage, and then you brought up the Panthers. Midlothian Heritage and Henderson, the team we talked about.
Hey, Midlothian Heritage still has Landon Ledbetter at quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in Class 4A Division 1.
And people are still at Midlothian Heritage.
Yeah, and they still have skill position players around him.
Yep.
They got a line. I think Midlothian Heritage doesn't enter into 2018 like they entered into 2017, 2018 last year, but they still enter in as big favorites to make the region final. It basically comes down to Carthage, Midlothian Heritage. I think Henderson is a big one. I think Henderson will challenge Carthage and Midlothian Heritage, and then an outsider's punch in Kilgore. I think Kilgore lost enough where they're still favorites get to at least the third round, third round. But I don't know.
Well,
if they've got enough.
You say that, but I mean that really does depend on seeding because they could end up facing Heritage in the first round.
Yeah, they could, but they could. I mean, that's a big, Carthage, Henderson, and Kilgore. I mean, they're going to fight it out. They have to fight it out to not have to face Heritage. Like I don't know, maybe the fourth place team like a Chapel Hill. I think Chapel Hill's probably the fourth. I don't know, maybe Van.
I'm not saying a thing.
Yeah, this is the district show. We're gonna do that.
I can't. I'm not allowed to talk about Van anyway.
Right. Yeah, you're not.
But the point is District 10 is really good, really deep, a big battle. And you're right though. Part of their battle is it's just that's the way it goes. You don't want to face the best team. I mean, you could say I've always been kind of on the fence of that. Sometimes I feel it's better to face the best team early, get it out. You kind of get that quick knockout punch if you're the underdog. But when you're two teams that are supposed to be right at the same level, I understand why it's like it's like going for two when you need it. You wait till the last possible moment.
Right.
I'm one of those that sometimes I think it's better to just do it early.
Yeah.
And I know they call it chasing, but do it early and then you kind of know where you're at.
You're the kind that pulls the Band-Aid off your blister on your scrotum really fast.
No.
I'd rather the nurse work it off. Just work it slowly off.
We talked about this. That wasn't a nurse, and what she was doing was not pulling a Band-Aid.
And it cost $350
an hour. But no.
30 minutes. Oh, wait.
Wait a minute, you told me an hour. What the heck happened to... Oh, you son of a...
We better call in counselor.
She'll probably eat all the brisket, too.
I know.
That's what... I just hate when that happens.
She feels about bounce checks. I actually would love for you to call an escort service, get her here, and then go, who's talking about escort
No.
Wait.
No. Shut up. You're not disrailing this.
Talking about your sister.
You're not disrailing this joke. I would love for you to call an escort service, get them here, and then go, oh, you do take checks, right?
They would probably make you pay before the deed.
How would you know, buddy?
I don't know.
You're just assuming?
We should call one on the air.
No, that's an after dark, and I didn't get permission from Chris for an after dark.
Chris, hold on. I'm going to dial one while he's talking. Go ahead, but I am seriously going to dial.
Okay, that's fine. This is one of the regions where I
got to get my Google up.
We try to not talk the teams. Because
dirty sock.
Can you please at least
There's
do it
one
quietly?
called the dirty sock.
Did it quietly. So the biggest thing with this, and like I said, we try not to get into the teams because we're trying to do that. We try to do this in different shows. But what makes Region 3 for me deeper than 4 and 1 is the teams like Navasota. It's the teams like North Forest. Because those are the type of teams.
See, I'm not sold on North Forest. I'm sorry. We saw that Dave Campbell's, and I'm not.
I have no problem I have no problem at all with that. But what I'm saying is they could be. those type of teams. No. I seriously will pause the fucking show.
Please
let it
just
no,
call the
no,
customer
no,
service on air
no,
right here.
No, I'm not kidding.
Do not touch. Don't.
I'm sorry. I have to, dude. No. We can get away with so much. Chris lets us get away with so much, but I don't think we can go there, dude. I don't. Now I'm kind of interested.
Do it.
Chris, if you want to block this, I'm fine with that. Are you really doing it?
Oh, I got a call. There we go. It's not answer. Maybe it's discontinued.
It's a Saturday. It's not a business day.
God, hookers are so unreliable.
But anyway, no, I agree with you what you're saying about North Forest. I don't know.
They didn't answer.
I don't
even dial.
I don't even know if I'm like you. I don't really trust in them yet. But I'm just saying those type of teams,
right.
Just like what you said with Kilgore, those type of teams that
Kilgore's reliable though.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they are. They always have speed. They're always.
Oh yeah, threat. I mean yeah, reliable like that. But I mean, reliable like
you. Call back.
That's how it works, I think. Gish.
Hello.
But when I look at Navasota, when I look at North Forest, when I look at Kilgore, what I mean though,
I would take North Forest out. I still don't.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So even just Kilgore and Navasota work for this argument. They're two teams that we could see being beat in the first round.
Right.
Not because they're a bad team. I really don't say that about Navasota. I think Navasota.
I don't think anybody beats Kilgore or Henderson or Carthage in the first round.
No, well, again, that's the Midlothian Heritage thing where they fall where
everybody falls. But they're going to take the 4th place team.
Well, but what if what if, like you said, a Chapel Hill or a Van, sneak up and bite one of the Kilgore, and they, seeding, they end up 3rd, and Kilgore ends up 4th.
And that's been known to happen in that area.
Yes, yeah. I mean that's basically why we, it's always the District of Doom conversations. But Navasota and Kilgore are two of those teams that I can legitimately at least give a reason why I think they can make it to the semifinals, win the region. I agree with you. North Forest could be. I can't really make an argument on that. When I look at Region 4 or Region 1, I just can't make enough arguments that these teams will win their region.
Well, I think Region 3 makes the argument of being the second toughest region in 4A Division 1 above Region 1 and Region 4. Basically, yes, we know we have our mainstays in Carthage, Midlothian Heritage, Henderson, and Kilgore, but I think a lot of it comes down to Navasota.
That's what I'm trying. I know it'll take me longer, but that's what I'm trying to say.
They've got Navasota has 8 returning starters on a really good defense, and they've got a defensive tackle in Navasota, Tyreek Houston, who is, he shuts it down in the middle.
Oliver at Houston.
Well, that kid, that's one of the only defensive linemen that could ever win a Heisman. The Oliver kid.
And I'm not saying Tyreek is as good, but he plays like him.
But he does, and he's a dominant. Tyreek Houston is a dominant defensive player, and I think Navasota defensively can impose their will on Region 3 and even give Carthage a little bit of trouble, not just because of Tyreek Houston, but just how good their defense is going to be. Navasota, to move the ball on Navasota this year is going to be a tough road to hoe, man. Navasota's defense is going to be good. All right, so we said Region 3 is the toughest.
So that means Region 7.
No, that means Region 2, you dumb.
Oh, you know what's funny?
Marshall Hillbilly.
Well, I'm about to say, you know what's funny? People they always do the whole, and it's become like really funny that people in East Texas think I hate East Texas, and then people outside of East Texas think I defend East Texas.
I know you can't win for losing.
No, but what makes that funnier is then that means I became a Region 2 homer. Mm-hmm. There ain't no East Texas teams in Region 2, folks. This region is just really stacked.
It is.
And what sucks about it is it's
basically Region 2 has 3 top tier or tier 1 teams that we regard as tier 1.
Yeah.
or top 5 teams in the state.
And
right?
again, to remind everybody, we're not going to name the tiers, but when we say tiers, we don't do the rankings. I mean, we use rankings. I mean, everybody knows that we use rankings, but we don't rank a team at the beginning of the season like they're the best team, this is the second best team,
right?
Because we don't like to do the whole, well, if the state championship was played today, we're more, well, if the state championship is played when it's supposed to be played.
Right. Who's deep enough?
Who's deep enough, who's talented enough, who can deal with injuries,
Right.
who can deal with that kind of stuff. So a Tier 1 team is a team we're basically saying should at least be in the region final, at worst. Like, at worst. And even then, if they lose a region final, you go, okay, they didn't really end up doing as well as we thought they would. A Region 2 team is a team that's a dark horse that you probably don't want to play in the region finals because they're one of those teams like we were just talking about, like a Kilgore or Navasota that just comes up and you know they're good, but they go from going to just being good to being dominating good and scary good. Region 3 or Tier 3 is teams that just hope to make some noise.
Right.
So what we're basically saying is we feel there are 3 teams in Region 2 that and this is where the fun of it is, they all 3 should basically be paying for the region final, even though only 2 of them can. My problem with Region 2, and it has nothing to do with the rankings, it's just that, man, it's all really stacked into 2 districts.
It is. I mean, District 5 and District 7,
I
right?
do like the fact they're across each other on the brackets. So it's not like we're getting first-round matchups of
right. You're still going to get a region final out of the good one.
Yeah, you're not going to get probably your first-round matchup being between 2 teams who are ranked 3 and 4 in the state. But it's going to be such a dogfight in the region. It comes down to in the district, it comes down to, well, what it takes and how you win isn't just how talented you are, how good you are. Can you deal with the injuries? Do you have the depth? And that's one of the things that, and there's really nothing they could have done. I'm not complaining at how the UIL built this region. I'm just complaining it's just bad luck how it fell.
Yeah.
We basically get, in my opinion, 2 districts of doom in the same region.
That's right. And let's go ahead and spill the beans here. Here's the reason why Region 2 is the toughest region in Class 4A Division 1. It's because of Argyle, La Vega, and Stephenville. Then you throw in Melissa on top of there, and then maybe Celina and China Spring. That adds a lot of beef. But let's look at Argyle. I mean, you got the quarterback Hayden Clearman. Stephenville has a really good running back in Crease Nowak and a tough defense. Stephenville should return. And then La Vega. I mean, they lost a lot, but they're still athletic with running back John Richards. I mean.
Well, and I think La Vega has earned the.
And Brendan Lewis, the quarterback at Melissa, probably the best. The quarterback at Argyle, Hayden Clearman, and then the quarterback at Melissa and Brendan Lewis could be considered, outside of maybe the Ledbetter kid at Heritage, the 2 best quarterbacks in Class 4A Division 1. And they're in the same district.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is I think La Vega has earned the right of we trust that they reload instead of have to rebuild.
Yeah, and they plug in players.
That's
too.
what I mean.
They do.
Again, I'll go back to the Alan Wilson, but that's literally what Willie Williams, the head coach, does. Right. It's like Alan Wilson. That's why you don't. There have been years where certain running backs had big years and stuff like that, and some people don't like to talk about some of those running backs and things like that. But usually, what you see with them offensively is a bunch of kids at 400 or 500 yards, 600 yards. And their defensive line. And I think you said it best a couple of years ago. It was during the lighting incident at China Spring, La Vega. La Vega's a lot like the early '90s Cowboys. They always seem to find somebody to bring out on the defensive line when they need to be fresher. They always. You look at the per snaps on La Vega sometimes on their defensive lines in games that they're in a battle. And their defensive line players are only taking 20, 30 snaps. Great players.
Right.
But because they have so much depth at certain positions, they can do that. And, they might drop off a little, but the drop-off isn't enough that you have to bring out a tired kid. if that makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, I think division. I think, as I said when we opened, I think what's fun about this year in both 4A and 3A is there's a lot of unknown, but I do think 4A Division 1 is one of the divisions that's pretty set.
Yeah. Yeah, they are, except for Region 2. That's kind of a crapshoot.
No. I mean how
Region
good.
2.
No. I mean how good the regions are.
I
think that's.
Yeah.
I don't.
Sure.
People can debate. I mean, people always find a reason to debate what you're saying. People can debate some of the other regions and the other divisions that we're about to talk about. I don't really think there's a lot of debate
right
outside on this division.
You and I argue a lot, but we can't find.
Yeah, I mean, it really can't. I was
maybe in 4A Division 2 we could argue.
Well, and that's where 4A Division 2, and we'll go to that right now.
Let's get a little bit more sketchy.
That's where it starts. That from the 4A Division 2 all the way through 3. I think that's where we get into where everything just for this year, at least on paper, spreads out perfectly.
Yeah, there's let's go into it. 4A Division 2.
Imagine a game where you can pit the greatest Texas high school football teams of all time against each other. Before now, if you wanted to see the Permian Panthers of Friday Night Lights fame play Johnny Manziel's 2010 Kerrville squad, you were stuck with only your imagination. Not anymore. This new game allows you to play those dream matchups. 1983 Dangerfield only allowed 8 points all season. 2015 Katy, 10 shutouts en route to their 4th straight championship appearance. 2008 Allen, their first of 5 championships in the state's largest classification, and so many more. Friday Night Legends is that game. What are you waiting for? Get in the game. Friday Night Legends.
Head over to FridayNightLegends.com while you can still take advantage of the Kickstarter pricing. That's FridayNightLegends.com.
Yeah, there's let's go into it. 4A Division 2. I think the least toughest region, the 4th toughest region out of all 4 of them is Region 4. And I think you got Cuero, which is the heavy hitter, the Gobblers, obviously. Jordan Whittington, one of the best players in Class 4A, if not the state in all classifications. Jordan Whittington is, I don't know how to explain it. We watched him the last 2 years, and I don't know. I'd hate to be a defensive coordinator when he lines up at quarterback in the Wildcat or out wide or in the slot. You just can't. I mean, you just got to give him his yards. He's going to get his yards. Defensive back, he's great on the defensive side of the ball. So Cuero's the heavy hitter in Region 4. And then I think you got Geronimo Navarro with Chris Gomez at running back. I think they're still going to be pretty good. And then Wimberley. I think it comes down to Cuero, Navarro, and Wimberley here. Thing is, Navarro and Cuero in the same district, in District 13. And then, of course, Wimberley is also actually in the same district.
Well, I was about to say, this is
one of the toughest districts.
Well, I was about to say, this is one of those that when we do the toughest district, that's going to be one of the top ones.
Yeah.
And if we had one in each district, this region might be looked upon as better because any of the teams named could win state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Problem is they're all in the same district. And so that's where you and we go into when we're discussing this. And we joked earlier, and we always joke about, hey, we're just, messing around, blah, blah, blah. We take this stuff seriously. But that's when you look at this, there's just no depth in Region 4. I mean, it's all District 13. So, I mean, it's just really, really hard to go, okay, even though I know there's 3 good teams in the region that are teams that I feel are all 3 either Tier 1 or right there touching the edge of Tier 1, I can't go that this region is any stronger simply because that district holds all of them. And when I look at everybody else in that region, I really can't say, okay, well, I see that team could be that dark horse, or that team could be that team that brings depth to Region 4. I mean, and again, though, it's funny because we're talking about 3 teams in this region that might be the 3 teams. 2 of these teams, I'm pretty sure we're going to see all 3 of these teams eventually have to play each other somehow, in the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
it's going to become we're eliminating each
other.
Yeah,
I mean, Region 4 comes down to District 13.
So that's why I can't say, even though there's 3 really good teams, that's why I can't say this region is stronger than any other one, simply because it's all in one district.
All right, so the third toughest region in Class 4A Division 2 is Region 1.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I think you got 2 top, maybe not top, but like tier 2s, almost tier 1s in Lubbock, Estacado, and maybe Graham. Graham lost a lot, man. You still got Chase Gilmore at running back, and what that kid did last year was amazing. And then Lubbock, Estacado with Jeremiah Dobbins had almost, 1,720 some odd yards rushing at running back for Estacado. But I think what gives Region 1 the nod above Region 4 outside of Graham and Lubbock Estacado is Midland, Greenwood, and Glen Rose. I think Glen Rose with their quarterback Cameron Griffin, who's had 2,600 yards passing last year, and then Jake Summers for Midland Greenwood, and the running back for Midland Greenwood, Ryan Snodgrass. Those, Greenwood and Glen Rose are 2 teams that kind of added a little bit more than what Region 4 had to make it a little bit deeper. Again, I think the heavy hitters here in Region 1 are Estacado and probably Graham, but it's that whole Greenwood and Glen Rose, and then maybe even add in Sweetwater and Iowa Park. Iowa Park, man, got a dual threat quarterback that we saw play Graham last year. We went out to Iowa Park, and you could tell that Iowa Park was going to have something a little bit special this year. They had a lot of young players, so I think Iowa Park's a dark horse
he's been I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of the head, but he's been compared to Lee.
Lee Club.
Yeah. I mean, in that way. Greenwood is the team that they're one of those that's right on schedule of what they do. You look at where they've been since I'm gonna go 1999, and I know I'm just picking an arbitrary point, but 1999. So from 1999, these are the records: 9-4, 7-2, 13-1. Now I don't have all these. Not every game's recorded, so if I'm missing one, I'm sorry, but you're going to get the point. 2004, 5-5. 2005, 5-7. 2006 was that magical run where they beat Dangerfield in the semifinals, lost in the state championship.
Right.
Then
Bandera, right?
Yes. Then they went to 6-5, 7-5, 6-4, 4-6, then 7-5, then back to 9-4, then back to 2-8, 5-6, 6-5, 6-3, 6-5. So just going off of the numbers. This is a year that's just what they do. They're never like completely 0-10 for 3 years bad, but their great years are cycles. And it just seems like going again on history. And I know you can't really go on history, but that's what we do. It's time for the up cycle. Plus, you look at what they're bringing back talent-wise. I'm not just pulling that out of my butt, going, "Oh, hey, they're going to be back because hey, it's 5 years." It's literally the same type of team that made a run at 9-4 and 20-12, and a type of team that made that magical run in 2006. And they're now in a region where you look at it. I mean, I'm not going to say they're the favorite, but I could see that.
Yeah,
I really could.
I think Estacado.
Probably,
and then maybe Graham is obviously. I think outside of Estacado and Graham, I think everybody else is fighting for it. But could be Glen Rose or Midland Greenwood. Yeah, could be. Sweetwater lost a lot. Iowa Park, though, I'm still saying watch out for.
I agree again. But this is where we go back to what we're talking about. Region 4. Region 1 has a couple more teams, but what makes it tougher is everything's just spread out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about that where you could easily get first-round matchups of teams that both are Tier 1 or close to Tier 1s.
Yeah.
Just because of how the bracket breaks out.
All right, so we got Region 4 is the least toughest. Region 1 is the third toughest. Who's the second toughest out of all of Class 4A Division 2? I think it's Region 2. It's kind of close. Region 2 and Region 3. Here's why I think Region 2. What, you're going to make a point.
No.
Your point.
No.
I'd like you to make your point.
No, I was simply going to say this is one of those chicken egg conversations when you try to do something like this. Mm-hmm. You try to. Everybody has biases of what they look for of when they're trying to judge something like this. Right. I'm real big on depth of the region. I
am too. I think it's huge.
I'm real big.
I think we have the same.
Yeah, we do. We're big on like when we talk about toughest districts. We'll point out toughest districts. Somebody like, well, you had a district that was fifth toughest in the state, and they're not. None of those teams are state champion. But our point has always been inside that district. It's a tough district because you really don't know who's coming out of it. Mm-hmm. The District of Dooms, a lot of the District of Dooms, you know who's going to be in the playoffs. You just don't know the seeding yet.
Right.
Some of the other districts that are really good, that are not great as far as they're not going to have state champions, but you can't really go, I know what team's coming out of there. And so it's just like that when it comes to regions. I'm really big on depth, but sometimes it's like, yeah, the depth, but man, that other region has enough heavy hitters that it might tip the scale. I'm agreeing with you, but it's like you said, it's extremely, extremely close.
It is close, but here's what makes Region 2. Like Region 2 is the second toughest behind Region 1, right? Region 2 has District 6.
What?
Huh?
The second toughest behind Region 1.
Or, I'm sorry, Region 3. Region 3. I'm sitting here looking at my little notes here. Look, District 6 is what makes Region 2.
Exactly, because depth. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's Pleasant Grove, last year's state championship winners. Gilmer, Liberty-Eylau, who should be really good. Mm-hmm. And then Pittsburgh, who should be pretty good this year. Though I thought I heard where a running back or two from Pittsburgh moved to a private school here in Dallas. I didn't confirm that, so I don't know. But look, Pleasant Grove brings back. Look, I know Pleasant Grove lost a lot from last year's state championship team, but still have Ben Harmon at quarterback coming back, Bruce Garrett at running back coming back. So they're going to be tough. Gilmer, we know, is going to reload, and then you got Liberty-Eylau, who's going to be athletic, and then Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going to be pretty good if they didn't lose those two running backs that I heard about. So that's what makes Region 2. And then you throw in, Fairfield. Fairfield is up in District 8. They got Jaquan Hatchett at running back and Chad Russian at quarterback. And then you add in Rusk, who had a really good year last year. And then Madisonville with Rusty Nell, that coach. That's a very, very tough region, Region 2. And they're only behind Region 3 by like one team maybe for the toughest region.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to say Rusk, we didn't give enough credit to Rusk last year.
No.
We wrote off Rusk early. We kind of did the whole they could be solid type of thing. They could be good. They have a lot of talent coming back from a program that's been down for a while. And then they got beat by Malakoff. It was a close game. And we didn't just write them off. But we were like, okay, well, that was their big test. And then they lost to Jasper. And then they lost to Melissa. But then when you start really looking at the scores and you really start looking at it, they were in every game.
Yeah.
The Eagles were, they beat Pittsburgh, a team that we just talked about. Hey, this is a team that, could be a hot team. And they didn't even just beat Pittsburgh. They dominated them 48-7. So I just wanted to say to any Rusk fans, we didn't give you enough credit last year.
Yeah,
you were really good last year, and I do remember us talking about them on one of these shows, and then I just feel like, and then that's something you and I do wrong, and you and I have had this debate because I think you do it more than I do, but we both do it. It's our first impressions, and then we just kind of go, okay, that team's out.
Yeah,
no matter what, that team's out.
We do, and it burns us.
Oh, it burns us all the time.
Later in the playoffs.
It burns us all the time. But it's just that's human nature.
What was it? What was the team we saw last year? It was Was it Hallettsville, Yoko? No, never mind. I can't remember what it was. But we wrote off one team in the last couple of years after seeing them play their district rival and getting beat, and we kind of wrote them off, and all of a sudden, boom, a month later, they're in the state semifinals, and we're like, whoa.
Yeah, and again, I think that's just human nature. You try not to do that.
No, but when you see them by the eye test, and you and I are pretty good at the eye test.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, I do think that's
we missed the boat on that one because.
But again, you see them on a bad day.
Whoever it was, I can't remember, was either holding back or had a lot of injuries or whatever it was. I mean, they passed the eye test, but the other team, I don't remember.
Dude, that's going to bother me now because I know what you're talking about because I remember this conversation on the way back because we were like.
That was like 2 years ago. We were like, how did we miss this?
Yeah.
How did we miss this?
How was it that
everybody misses it?
Yeah, it was how was the game that we were at? We were literally shaking our heads going, okay, they're good, but where's all this? Why are they keep getting all this pub? And then, like you said, in the semifinals, we're like, okay, we got to admit it. We all do that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to it's
sometimes
hard to,
Sometimes we don't have the eye. We think we have the eye, but
well, again, that comes to what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes the team just has a bad game.
Yeah.
It's simply that. There's nothing else. There's no other outside reason. It's not because the coach didn't do anything right or the players didn't do anything right. It just didn't fall for them that day.
Yeah.
That's what.
And we just happened to be there.
You talked about it when we were talking earlier today. We were talking about teams that when you have high expectations. Mm-hmm. So you have this team that might win state or go to state or whatever they do. They go really far and they have a bunch returning. And so you point to them and go, that team could go really far again. And then they don't. It doesn't mean that team that didn't go as far was not as good. It just means for whatever reason.
Oh, your expectations on your hometown team. That's what I was talking about.
Well, that's what we started, but we kind of got into it just talking in general.
When you think your hometown team starts out the year top 5,
top 10, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and then they end up losing in by district. And I'm like, never trust your hometown team.
And it's even more frustrating when they go undefeated in like the first 2 rounds. You go,
I don't have many experiences.
Oh, whatever. You undersell Roy City back in the day. 15, 20
I thought we were
years
talking
ago.
about Highland Park. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. Jeez, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about Island next. But no, but again, what I'm saying, I mean, you don't know.
Right.
All right, so we know now what the toughest region is. I don't know if this is the deepest region.
Region 3.
I don't know if it's the deepest region.
Well, obviously, it's the deepest region if it's the toughest region because that's how we go on. We go tough, but again, the deepest.
But again, we do, but we don't. It's chicken and egg. Yes, I'm real big about depth being as strong in the region, but when you have a region that has enough districts that where every round of the playoffs is, in my opinion, probably going to be in play. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean by that? I mean, there's going to be solid. Yeah, there's going to be a couple crappy matchups, but for the most part, once the playoff starts, there's going to be really good matchups every week.
Look, all right. Here's why I picked Region 3 as being the toughest region. Western Stark, obviously.
Yes.
Kevin Cooper,
100%.
running back, linebacker.
I think this team's going to. I think the West Orange Stark team this year is going to be better than last year.
Could be.
I really do. I really think.
And a lot of questions though there. I mean, we gotta, they lost a lot, but they lost a lot year before last too.
Well,
they lost the quarterback Jack Dallas and went all the way to the state finals. So.
West Orange Stark, I think it's better when they have a lot of questions on defense because I do think at times they get really conservative because they know. Hey,
they just lost a lot on both sides.
No. But what I'm saying is. I think at times they got really conservative, even with Jack Dallas. I mean, it's not like the thing about Jack Dallas. It wasn't like he threw for.
Hey, Cornell Thompson, man, that's an SEC guy.
Yep.
To me, Coach Thompson, and God love him, and I agree with everything he's ever done, coaching style wise. But I think run the ball down your throat. He's a really good quarterback, whatever. But rely on that defense. You can make your mistakes, but rely on that defense. And I think. I don't know. I think West Orange Stark has played to their athletes.
Oh, no. I 100% agree. That's what I'm trying to say, though. I think when it's a season like this, because like I was trying to say, Jack Dallas, I mean, we talk about his legendary wins, blah, 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 but it's not like he threw for 5,000 yards and 75 touchdowns. He didn't set the record world on fire because, like you said, he didn't have to.
Right.
I think it's fun, though.
But, when he was on, he
was always on. He was always on.
Gosh.
He just wasn't needed.
He was one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in the Golden Triangle.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say here is I think it's fun when a team like that has that philosophy, and then for a season or maybe a couple seasons, that philosophy has to be flipped, where you have to go, okay, we're going to need to actually score 20 points a game.
Right.
I just think that's fun.
And Kevin Cooper, at running back, you think he can do that? Can he put up the points? You know, they didn't put up a lot of points last year.
They've never had to. I mean, not never, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
In what West Orange Stark has become, they've never had to like just be a point a minute offense. They've always been, like you said, it's always been that philosophy, and that philosophy works. I'm just saying, as a fan, I think it's fun when you have to flip that philosophy.
Well, look, so West Orange Stark, probably the best team in Region 3, and one of the anchors in Region 3 that makes them the toughest region in Class 4A Division 2. But their district mate, Silsbee, the Silsbee Tigers, man.
Oh, I'll go ahead and say this:
They're going to be a tough out. I mean, West Orange Stark and Silsbee probably going to be playing for a district championship, obviously. You know, Silsbee comes back with Chris Martin at running back, and then Draylon Taylor at running back. You know, two running backs that have put up, I don't know, almost 2,000 yards between them, maybe more than that. Can that West Orange Stark defense stop Silsbee? I know we're starting to move ahead of ourselves because we're going to talk about toughest districts soon, but District 10 houses two of the best teams in Class 4A Division 2 in Silsbee and West Orange Stark. I would be surprised to not see these two play for the region final.
Okay, well, this is one of those districts that we love because our viewing philosophy has always been we want to watch as many teams that we think will go as far as they could go. And we get to see this in district. Instead of having to go try to pick out the random non-district games, we can actually see that game and know we probably could see that game a few weeks later. And then B, it's amazing to me that Coldplay's Chris Martin has time to be a running back. I'm sorry.
I said I would be shocked not to see Silsbee and West Orange Stark play in the Region 3 final. But I think Sweeney might have something to say with that.
I'm going to say this.
Running back Cameron Adams coming back, and look, Sweeney gave Cuero everything they wanted last year, and Cuero is one of our top teams, our top tier teams in the state in Class 4A Division 2. And Sweeney was right there toe to toe with them.
Well, I was going to say this. The funniest thing is about the two teams that help pump up this region is Jasper and Sweeney, both Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And both teams that, honestly, they're those teams that you just never know what you're going to get.
I think Sweeney's going to be the real deal.
I think both of them are the real deal. But I'm just saying, you just don't know. It just seems like year to year, you go, okay, this team, we think, Jasper and Sweeney. You and I have said all the time when we talk about Sweeney, you just always felt like they were athletic. They just looked good.
Right.
They were just one of those teams that you saw, you just went, wow, that man, everything looks good. The uniform, everything just looks good.
Powder blue. We got to get down to Sweeney.
Yes, but then they'd play these games against certain teams that were not good enough teams, and they would either get beat or struggle. Jasper's the same way.
I don't think
that's going to happen this year.
Yeah,
no, that's my point. But I'm just saying that it could happen.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to happen. That's why I at the end of the day, I do think Region 2 is deeper, but I think Region 3 is better. And I know that I know that when we say that those kind of things, it goes against some of the things we're saying, but this is not an exact science.
Here's why look, Region 3, this is the one reason I think Region 3 is deeper than Region 2. All right, you got West Orange Start, you got Silsbee, you got Sweeney. Those are top 3 teams. Jasper, then add in Belleville. I think Belleville is going to be pretty good this year. Belleville is that outlier that I don't think Region 2 has.
Yeah, like a team that you can just
Right.
go, okay, that team hasn't been there
Right.
for a while.
I think Belleville adds enough spunk to this Region 3 to make them the toughest.
Well, I know we said we were going to do these in one show, but I mean we're sitting at the hour and 7 mark. Might be at the 45-minute mark after Chris decides to cut like half of some things that Grant were saying. Not saying that he said anything wrong, but I think we're going to go ahead and we are going to make the executive decision that we're going to cut this off and we're going to do a separate 3A toughest region shows. And the reason why we do that, it's not just because it's going long for the listeners, because I know listeners like to skip around, but when we get long, we feel like we have to rush some things.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of times we get more in depth in the early part of a show, and then the later part of the show, we might not be as in depth. It's not because we're trying to not talk about that region or whatever we're talking about. It's just we're trying to do it in a window. And I think we've exceeded the window. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to end the show here, and then we're going to do a 3A show. Don't know how we're going to do this yet. If we're going to put them both up at the same time or one week and one the other. Me and Chris will talk about it. But either way, we're done for the toughest region, Class 4A. I want to thank everybody for joining us once again. We always love people's feedback. I know I personally give a lot of y'all a hard time about the stuff y'all give me a hard time about, but I love it. That's the fun part. That's when it gets fun for me when we're doing these shows, when people can point out our stupidity, and then we try to defend it and feel like we defended it well, and then they lose in the second round, you sons of bitches. But anyway.
That's more you.
Shut up! You have to defend yourself on criminal charges. I'm just defending myself on a team I picked. You decide which is worse. But we want to remind everybody once again, you can follow us on Twitter at Grant and Terry. You can like us on Facebook, Sideline to Sideline. Give us an email, grantandterry@LoneStarGridiron.com. We want to remind everybody about a couple things real quick. And I'm sorry, I literally just remembered this. One is the board game that we have at LoneStarGridiron.com. It's really cool. You can basically... You can play any team against any other team. Chris will link it. I know that sounds weird, but it's a board game where you can basically go, okay, what would happen if 2004 Gilmer played 2010 Gilmer? Who wins? You can figure that. You can do that with a board game. It's really fun. Also, Chris and I have starting a Twitch show at Twitch TV / Lone Star Gridiron, where we're basically kind of just at least once a week we're going to have like a show that was like where we have a set agenda that we're going to talk about. That's going to probably be Wednesday night during the football season. But the other shows that we will pop on just randomly, and if you subscribe to us on Twitch, you'll get the emails when we're up. And after the show's up, you can watch it and record it on Twitch or even YouTube. We take it and put it on YouTube as well. But it's basically it's basically Chris and I playing Madden and talking about high school football. Now, once the season gets here, we'll probably talk more like what's going on in season stuff. But what we've been doing right now is we've just been kind of talking about like in the general state, like Chris and I had a great discussion on one of them about 7-on-7. Like, is 7-on-7 destined to become AAU style? Are we reaching that point with that? Or have we already reached that point and we're just now realizing it? And and then things about can Grant ever love another man like he loves me? Stuff we talk about on the show. So anyway, just checking that out. Twitch TV, LoneStarGridiron.com. Like I said, we're gonna once the season gets here, or once we get closer to the season, we'll have a set show weekly. That's another after dark. When we start having a set show, that goes past after dark. That goes into
clean my diaper rash.
I couldn't name the site because I know this site. I'm not going to name it on the air, but it could be going past that point. But anyway, well, like I said, we'll have a set schedule, but we'll also pop on. So, again, follow us on Twitter, at Grant and Terry, at LoneStarGridiron.com. follow us, and when you see the show, pop in, check it out, or pop in when you can. We have some fun. Chris is really bad at Madden, and so the part of the series is it's like, can he beat a team, because he's never played, not never, but he's never been an online Madden player, so it's fun doing that, and then we just kind of talk about the high school stuff and all that fun stuff. Anyway, that's going to do it for the 4A Toughest Regions show. We thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, that's Grant Goodwin. I'm Terry Bennett. You've been listening to Sideline to Sideline right here on LoneStarGridiron.com.
LoneStarGridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas high school football.